Jen, Brent, good afternoon, everyone. Waterbury Police Department, like many across the state, having an unbelievable amount of trouble keeping up with car thefts. And, you know, here, they're just very thankful that about a mile east of here, they didn't run into a deadly situation yesterday. This surveillance camera video shows two cars coming down Waterbury's Marley Place at police who were on a stolen vehicle stakeout.
Those vehicles crashed into several police cars that were located on Marley Place.
During the incident, watch upper left. A Waterbury officer who was shot goes down.
One of those rounds struck Officer Charles Moriello in the vest, in his chest.
Thankfully, he's recuperating at home. He was shot by fellow officer Garrett Pagel, and there were more shots fired.
That's when I saw the smoke. I dropped to the floor. The adrenaline rush, I grabbed my baby. We were all screaming.
That frightened woman showed Fox 61 where a bullet hole penetrated her living room and ended up hitting the couch she usually sits on with her 1-year-old. But minutes before that, she moved.
I chose to sit on the other seat across from the window so I could see him in his playpen sleeping.
Police on Marley Place because they were trying to help New Britain PD track down 19-year-old Robert Harrison of Waterbury, who was wanted in New Britain for kidnapping and gun charges.
As the officers were conducting that surveillance, they saw Robert Harrison walk up Marley Place towards that stolen motor vehicle.
Police took Harrison into custody just before the other two stolen vehicles came charging down the hill at them. One of the drivers, a juvenile.
This is a prolific car thief. He has 4 pending auto theft arrests for 2020 here and only in the Waterbury Police Department.
Now, an update on the condition that Officer Mark Sharrow, who was the one who sustained a concussion. His car was rammed into so hard yesterday, he sustained a very serious concussion. He's home resting, as is Officer Charles Moriello, who was struck by a bullet from the gun of the officer Greg Pagel, who is on administrative duty at this point, pending the outcome of the investigation. Dual investigation between Waterbury Police and State Police. We're live in Waterbury. Tony Terzi, Fox 61 News.
All right.